guys! Today we're going to be talking about some different kinds of all-ins, specifically all-ins involving Hellbats. This is going to be how Hydra handles Hellbat Hijinx. The key thing to understand going into this lesson is that there are different degrees of cheese, some more game-ending than others. If it doesn't work, you're done. Others are more forgiving, but these supposedly forgiving builds come at a price too. Today we're going to be looking at that price. Scouting is really the key to any Zerg matchup. The more information you have, the better response you can have to whatever your opponent is planning. We are the reactive race, after all. As such, today we'll be looking at different aspects of a Terran build, rather than providing you with a specific build order. We will discuss why Hydra, who is currently in the WCS standings as the 5th best Zerg and top 20 player overall, reacts in the manner he does and how his reactions benefit him compared to a standard game. Okay, so I know it's a little bit weird that we're watching much of the Terran perspective, but trust me, there's a method to the madness. First things first, I want you to notice that this guy is going to be doing a 12 racks, 12 refinery. A lot of builds are actually using 13 racks, 13 refinery, which means this is a little less economic than some openers could be. We're just, again, analyzing this opener to see some of its faults, what it's going for. This is not the best example of a completely all-in build, but it's not exactly macro either. This is some kind of weird in-between stage. It's kind of wishy-washy, and one thing to always keep in mind about cheese, by the way, that's the 12-12 right there, is that cheese and macro are two opposite sides of a river. Anywhere in between and you're going to drown. If you're safe on either bank, though, you'll be okay. Now, some people say one bank is better than the other. So we do have our first Reaper coming out. A SCV is being sent out by Straylock. Straylock gonna get lucky with this SCV scout. He's gonna go straight to the Zerg base. He has no idea where the Zerg could be, but this is a pretty lucky guess, pretty educated guess, just judging by the way the Overlords did not arrive. Either way, there's going to be a second Reaper queued up after this, followed by a third Reaper. Now, let's talk about opportunity cost. Each Reaper costs some gas. So if a Terran is trying to rush to Hellbats, which is going to require quite a bit of gas to get out the armory and such, plus the factories, plus the reactors, this will delay his Hellbat push just by expending gas. So this is going to require some damage for Straylock to be able to snowball this into a viable all-in. This is like stage 1 of the all-in, and we do see the bunker going down. Second Reaper on the way. Now I want you to notice how Hydra is choosing to defend this very carefully. He has bruised the SCV quite a bit, but he's just, you know, keeping his units alive, throwing up the extractor so that drone doesn't die, getting some lings on the way. He's not too scared of this Reaper, not overreacting. There's 4 lings already, a 5th and 6th ling on the way. Queens are en route as well, and it looks like this is going to be zoned out pretty nicely. One Reaper not doing that much damage, and the second Reaper showing up just now. Third Reaper on the way. We do have a command center followed by a factory, but again, that's quite a bit of gas, delaying that factory a little bit. Either way, some nice harassment. Finally gonna get that extractor back up. Doesn't quite get the drone. I thought he was. And some lings being spent now by Hydra. This is very good for Straylock, but it doesn't really justify the cost of this attack, and that is going to be a salvage, and he's going to go and retreat with the SCV and some of these Reapers. Reapers mostly going to be for map control at this point. One thing I'd like to note is that Hydra has pulled all his units off of this extractor. He's waiting for metabolic boost to get close to finishing, and then he's going to go and throw some units back on there. This allows him to get a lot more of an economy going before he switches into higher end units. And we should see a return here shortly. Either way, we've now phased into the game of the transition to a Hellbat all-in, We see a command center on the way. The starport is on the way as well. And this is going to be for the Banshee. We'll see a cloak here with a tech lab and that Banshee. These 3 Reapers again going to be for map control. He wants to really deny scouting here. And Ling's, of course, very notorious for run-bys. So he's got to be careful not to allow any of these Lings to get into his base. And he has actually sacrificed a lot of map control. Think about it. Reaper Hellion is great at holding map control against Lings early on, but at this stage in the game, map control should belong to Straylock. However, with his early rush not being so successful, map control was definitely on Hydra's side. Now Hydra is going to throw it away with this attack, but let's take a look at actually what he is seeing with this right here. He has seen a tech lab. He has seen a factory. This is very, very, very not good for Straylock. And we'll see if the Lings can get up here and get any more vision. And there he goes. He does see the starport as well, so he's going to know exactly what's coming along just on the back of this little attack here. It's a little bitty poke, and yes, he does lose some Lings, but this is devastating for Straylock in quite a few ways, and this is actually going to take out a supply depot as well, which Straylock was not prepared for. Now remember, when you try to attack your opponent and lose units, or your attack doesn't work the way you planned, especially when it's a Zerg who is then forced to make units that he didn't necessarily want to make, he is going to counterattack with those units just to get some small advantage out of them. He may try to keep them alive with some extreme micro, or just pull back after, you know, the attack arrives. But in this case, we see Straylock was not able to actually hold map control of his own natural. That is how far behind he was. A lot of players have been having trouble with these Hellbat pushes, and mostly because they all come at different times. Hopefully we will be able to analyze these and get you guys a little more able to investigate what you're up against and decide what timing that's going to be arriving at. As you can see, there's only still 4 Hellions on the map now. Only 1 factory producing off 1 reactor, so not too many Hellions able to come out too quickly. Ling's trying to poke in, just see what's going on, make sure that there's no crazy shenanigans going on. He does know that the Banshee has to be on the way though, so see what he chooses to do. Lair's going to be on the way now for Hydra, and he's getting his 3rd and 4th gas here. Creep spread getting a little bit insane for Hydra. That's one thing he is known for. And looks like we will have the transition to Hellbats. Boom, right there. 6 Hellbats, 1 Banshee. A couple of Hellbats will be coming along the way. There we go, popping out of the factory now. Banshee getting some free pot shots on these Queens. Looks like the Queens will have enough energy to transfuse if it comes down to it, though. And there is not that much detection here. The Spore Crawler, the only thing used for detection at the moment. 1-1 upgrades on the way for Hydra. He is completely content to let Straylock sit on his creep, just building up his unit supply. Lings on the way now. 1-1 upgrades are nowhere near completion, but still ticking away inch by inch. And here's the 3rd base. Looks like it will be getting pressured now. Hydra going to have to be forced to make a decision. Does he want to defend this? It looks like he does. Queen's going in first. Ling's going to be coming in behind. Lings, oh, looks like they were going to intercept those Hellions, but Hellions are going to get out of there. Hellbats and Banshee's going to come down here from the south. As you can see, Hydra just holding this attack. He is so far ahead on economy. It is literally ridiculous at this point. And once this attack is held, if he can manage to hold it, he should be able to cinch a victory. It's coming down to some key transfuses. Ling's coming in. Looks like he does get us around on the Hellbats. That's going to be the end of these Hellbats. Banshee's not going to be able to do any damage here now that the Hellbats are out of the equation. And it looks like a Spire is going to be on the way now for Hydra. And he does have uncontested map control now. If you take a look at the army supply lost here, 10 Hellbats were lost, 39 Lings, just a bunch of minerals for our Zergy McFerguson. And the Banshee poking around a little bit, but still, he's not able to regain map control off of these 4 Hellions. He is going to try the Rich One on the way. Banshee going to be retreating back here to this 3rd position. Looks like we've got some harassment going on these Queens from the Banshee. He's going to need to get a repair there on that Banshee. Some Hellions coming down here. Looks like they want to come down to harass the 3rd mineral line, but the Mulisks going to come in here. There is no anti-air for Straylocks. These Mulisks going to be completely uncontested on the map. further securing map control for Hydra. And with no missile turrets up in his natural, that is pretty much going to be GG for Sherlock, as he does not have map control of that either. But Authority is going to pop out, and that's going to bruise some of these Mutalisks. Oh, some really nice repairs. Looks like he's taking out a lot of the Mutalisk corpse. Is going everywhere. Some of these Mutalisks are going to be forced to retreat. But still, what can Sherlock do? Even though he's taking out a couple of the Mutalisks, there's just too much Zerg stuff. He is now working on a 4th base, and there is really nothing Sherlock can do about it. So clearly, that's the weakness of an all-in, or a cheese like this, is that if it fails, it loses map control. If it succeeds, it has to do a set amount of damage to even break even. If you're gonna all in 100%. Don't all in halfway. In the next segment, we're going to be looking at a true Hellbat all-in, and we'll look at Hydra handles that as well. It will be a lot different than this, but it'll be against the same player. Sherlock is an amazing player. The number one reason a player like Straylock would use a strategy like this is to throw his opponent off on the timings. When players use these types of strategies on ladder, it's because they don't understand that mostly this is just meant to confuse the opponent. It's not one of the most efficient build orders for the reasons we've already discussed. Okay, so there are many variations of Hellbat rushes. This next rush we're going to look at is a more aggressive rush with a lower economy and an earlier attack timing that actually arrives with more units. As you can see, he was hunting around with Marines. That was one thing that they really do. They can't even spend gas on Reapers like we saw initially, just so they can get these 2 factories up that much quicker. You can see the reactor going down here as well, and this is actually huge, as it does allow him to make 2 sets of Hellions out of each factory. That's 4 Hellions per production cycle, which can become Hellbats. This is critical for arriving at a 7-minute 45-second timing. As you see here, they are going to switch over to the Hellbats, but Hydra doing a great job throwing evolution chambers down to deal with these. This is a lot of Hellbats coming in, though. We'll see if he can hold this off with basically 1 spine crawler, some queens, and 3 evolution chambers that aren't even finished building yet. So here we go. The Hellbats are coming in. This is a lot of Hellbats. This is more units than we saw previously earlier. So this is huge. You see how when I was discussing the original strategy we showed here being wishy-washy, it wasn't committing to damage, but it wasn't committing to macro either. This is committing to dealing damage. This is an all-in. If it does not end you, the game is pretty much over. And Straylock, of course, trying to commit to it, but his units are getting picked off. He does have some reinforcements coming, though. He's going to try to rally back. He is a determined player. He is not going to just give up without a fight, and we've seen more Hellbats coming in now, rallying here across the map. And Overseer going to check that out. And a little bit of poking going on. Going to try and run past these queens, doing some nice damage here. Great lineup on the queens. Some lings coming in as well, but he cannot let the lings surround the Hellions. And we've got some lings actually doing a lot of damage to these Hellions, but the Hellions going to win in the end, as they are much the counter to the lings. But this all really comes down to both the economy behind the attack, i.e. Straylock knows this requires doing damage. He's not worried about doing anything economic, hasn't made SCVs in a very long time, is not interested in making SCVs, just in making more and more units. But unfortunately for him, he has no anti-air, which is a huge weakness in the Hellbat strategy, and these Mutalisks are going to do work against the Hellbats, and pretty much anything else as well. It's all going to really come down to map control, and in fact, you're going to notice Straylock cannot even take map control really of his own natural. He does have a natural up, but these Mutalisks are going to make short work of that here in just a moment. StarCraft is the type of game that basically requires you to focus on one aspect of the game. So in an all-in, you're focusing on aggression, lots of units, early timing, okay? That means you cannot focus on economy. If you're focusing on economy, that means you cannot be focusing on aggression. Therefore, wishy-washy builds just kind of middle of the road. If someone gets too greedy, you can punish them with it, but that's about the best thing you can hope for. Straylock here, totally committed to it. It didn't work out. You saw that Hydra was able to defend that, but he had a much, much, much better showing here. Now, here in just a few moments, we're going to have the SCV counter coming up, and you can clearly see just from the SCVs alone, this is totally a different game. The first match, you've got basically an average between this game that we're watching now and your normal standard macro game. Standard macro game, nearly double the economy that we'd be looking at right now. And don't forget, guys, if you want to tell us what you want to know about in the next episode of Crash Course, please feel free to do it in the comments below. If you have any questions about this strategy, that is a great place to ask them. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. If you found this useful, please share it with your friends. Give us a like to tell YouTube that you like this video. You want to see more of this type of video. Thanks so much.
신할 선수가 되는 거고요. 그렇죠. 멀티에 방해도 받지 않으면서 안전하게 해주고 있는 모습인데 맹독 측의 스피드업이 되기 전에 즉 전방 위에서만 싸워야 되고 전방만 좀 제거하고 맞으면 돼요. 네. 여기 스캐너만 뿌리고 이 근육을 살려면 그렇습니다. 잘못하면은 부분 상황에 뒤집어질 수 있으나 현재까지는 준비를 이성 선수가 조금 더 잘해주고 있었다. 이렇게 생각을 해야 될 것 같습니다. 그렇죠. 그 상황이 신영 선수가 좋습니다. 네. 여기 랜디가 계속 앞서서 싸움을 걸 수 있는 건 보통 싸워서 써먹어야